Well, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for uh, being amenable to changing schedule. I'm just returning from Atlanta, where I spent the last uh, day and a half or so working with 14 mayors from across the country through the auspices of the National League of Cities. We are experiencing unprecedented gun violence across the country. This is nothing that is specific to Savannah. It is a nationwide phenomenon, and so through the National League of Cities, we've been working on ways and sharing notes and creating opportunities for us to be able to come up with solutions, hear from experts, and see how we can make dents in this issue. This will help us to build a support network for each other for tackling local violence through comprehensive community safety planning. It provides us an opportunity to speak and learn from resource people directly about how best to be able to uplift new structures and initiatives equitably. And then, of course, the National League of Cities being the nation's union, if you will, for cities, was a great convener in this, and I was glad that Savannah was invited to be a part, along with a couple of cities from Georgia, but more importantly, cities large and small across the country. Many of the things that were discussed, we're already doing or we're ramping up to do, and so that was quite positive. Beyond those things, we are still working through our Savannah Cares Committee, which is the Citizens Advocacy and Review of Emergency Services, for its new iteration. Many of you know that the first iteration was to review the Savannah Police Department, particularly at use of force and issues like internal affairs. They issued interim recommendations of 12 items, and then since then they have made themselves available to meet with community members to hear about experiences, both positive and negative, with the Savannah Police Department. And then the new iteration will really be of a citizens collaborative or review that not only provides data but also respects the relationship between the police chief and the city manager. We are a manager, council manager form of government. The police chief works for the city manager, and so therefore any community review has to be able to respect that employment relationship. And so as you all know, I've had some work being done by students at Harvard University. They were down here some months ago. I now have an intern here or a fellow here for 10 weeks that's helping us to implement, put that into implementation. Further, we've been working through our Real Savannah Task Force, Racial Equity and Leadership, again, to be able to have some synergies between the groups to come up with what is the best model that works for Savannah. So, this is something that in spite of what is going on, the continuous shootings that continue to plague us, we were one of the cities on the lower spectrum, but on the other end, that doesn't make things any better. For us, obviously, if we knew that somebody was going to shoot somebody, we would be able to be in the midst of that. The problem is we don't know. The problem is that there are guns everywhere. And so therefore, these are personal relationships for the most part, and it just jumps off. And it makes it very, very difficult for our police to predict. And so our model here will be dealing with issues of prosecution. Obviously, if you are pulling the trigger in our city, we want to make sure that you're dealt with comprehensively and swiftly. We only control one end of that. The Savannah police are making arrests. They then go into a prosecutorial and judicial process, and we don't control that. And so I continue to urge not only our prosecutorial partners, but also our judicial partners that we have to send a very clear message that gun violence and trigger pullers were not going to be tolerated in our community. And so I continue that call. On the other end of it, I'm soon hopefully working on a excellent partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I will talk to about that later on as the details come out. But again, they are as driven as we are to be able to drive gun violence out of our community. And then, of course, I'll talk a little bit more about this. The City Council has basically three roles. We hire a city manager, we approve the budget, and we set vision for the community. We have set a vision that Savannah will be a safe place. And we set a budget. And so this week, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, we have an opportunity to do two things. One is to be able to reduce our millage rate to the lowest rate that it's been in 35 years. 35 years, we'll reduce our millage rate. But more importantly, and we can reduce it more, but more importantly, we are responsible for public safety. And so these 9 individuals have to decide whether the pennies of tax savings is worth us really being able to make our police department competitive. And so ultimately what will come from this, if we're successful, is that our police department will be raised to $50,000 salary per year. So essentially you can go from high school making $50,000 with full benefits. And then secondly, our firefighters will go from $44,000 to $48,000. We're putting a premium on public safety. We want to be competitive. This puts us on a competitive scale nationally. And so I am very interested in this passing. And so whereas we can save a couple of dollars on tax relief, I will tell you that the difference between the city manager's proposed rate and the rollback rate is negligible. If we roll it back all of the way, we will continue to lose in the arms race for police and fire. We just will. And so I'm challenging my council members for us to do the right thing, make sure that our police department has everything that they need, make sure that those who are staying and choose to stay with the Savannah Police Department are rewarded. Again, there are substantial pay increases through the ranks all the way up to some of the lower command rank positions. And so I am strongly encouraging my colleagues to support public safety and let us do two wonderful things. One, be able to reduce our millage rate to the lowest rate that it's been since 1987. And then secondly, to be able to really make a substantial improvement in our emergency services. Any questions? No. Also, I'm excited to share that, finally, Gwinnett Street is open. And that has been a very, very happy day on the west side for many people, including myself, who for the first time in 2 years have been able to go across east and west on Gwinnett Street. This was an approximately $15 million project that will, when fully completed and fully opened, include a 4-lane roadway with sidewalks, bicycle lanes, and a landscaped median. And so the initial phase that is now open includes 1 lane in each direction and a sidewalk, and that improves connectivity to the downtown corridors for the area residents. In addition, the roadway's elevated structure will help avert past issues associated with flood on Gwinnett Street. Also, when you look at the arena and you look at the parking that is now open, over 900 spaces that are open, 1,000 more being paid now, there is now access directly to parking from Gwinnett Street. So you don't have to go on Stiles Avenue at all. You don't have to go Gwinnett Street west of Stiles Street at all. And so you can literally go from the highway, literally a little way on Gwinnett Street, and then you're turning right into the parking lot. So I'm very appreciative of Team Savannah, particularly our traffic engineering team. We're close, and we're getting better every day, and I want to thank them for doing that. As I mentioned last week, COVID is back on our radar, is in a rise throughout our community and throughout Georgia. We are in the high zone throughout the state, and Chatham County is considered yellow, which is considered medium risk, but last week we were high. So you really, to me, can't trust that, because again, this level is determined by a combination of factors, including hospital beds used, hospital admissions, and total new COVID cases in our area, which we cannot count because of all the at-home tests. And so remember before, they were all done in medical facilities, and so people would do that, and we would know because they would go into a system that counted it. Now we just don't know. So I would assume, probably rightfully so, that we are considered at high risk right now. In Georgia, only 57% of our folks are fully vaccinated, and 43% of that number has had at least one booster. Again, this has been now, we talk about over a year, so there has been some waning of the efficacy of those boosters. In Chatham, 58% are fully vaccinated, and 45% have had at least one booster. So frankly speaking, we are still in the pandemic, and the bad news is that our current vaccines do not seem to be particularly effective in preventing infection from BA.5, which is now the predominant strain for new cases in Georgia. The good news is that our vaccines do continue to provide some good protection against developing severe illness and in preventing hospitalization and death. Again, if you're not vaccinated, go ahead and get vaccinated. It's been well over a year. People have taken the vaccination. They have not died for all the fears. And people, oh, you're going to take vaccination, you're going to die, it's a microchip. And no, it did not happen. Go ahead and be vaccinated. And I'm monitoring this situation closely, obviously daily, and in contact with our medical advisory team about what we do next. As far as the city of Savannah, we have issued some guidance that strongly encourages some employee groups to wear masks when in close proximity. I am asking our employees, particularly when they're in close proximity, to go ahead and don the mask. It's too contagious, and so and we come in contact with a lot of folks. So we'll see where we go from here. Another reminder, as I said, alluded to a little while ago, that tomorrow we will hold the final 2 public hearings on our 12.2 millage rate, which will be the lowest rate since 1987, 35 years. And so that proposed millage rate, which is a reduction of more than $500 million, as I said before, still remains slightly above the rollback rate. And I told you why. To adopt a rate, first of all, that provides what our community's needs are now. It prevents us from dropping it and raising it and dropping it and raising it. For those 19,000 houses that are Stevens Day exempt, you'll be okay. You'll basically pay lower taxes because of that exemption. And again, this will help us do some magnificent things for public safety, to our men and women in blue and in red who are out there serving, running towards danger instead of running away from it. And I want this done. And so if anyone wants to share their viewpoint on the millage rate reduction, we have 2 hearings. One is tomorrow at 10 a.m. and then during our regular council meeting at 6:30 p.m. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. and then again at 6:30 p.m. In other council business, we will hold our evening workshop and council meeting tomorrow, and we will hear during our workshop talking about stormwater management. And so following the workshop, we will begin our regular meeting at 6:30, which will encompass our public hearing for the millage. We will also consider purchasing items, including a contract for up to $104,448 to provide glass recycling containers at 12 existing convenience centers throughout the city. So we're excited about that, and I look forward to sharing more information about that. And we will consider naming the gymnasium at the WW Law Center as the Freddie Patrick Senior Gymnasium to honor the late, great Freddie Patrick, who was just a titan on the east side of town, great community organizer, a phenomenal community leader who left us. And we want to do something to denote that he was here and he made some significant contributions to our city. We will also consider providing authorization to the city manager to accept a WorkSource Sector Partnerships Grant Award totaling $135,680. And this award will be used to develop regional sector partnerships that will work to understand and act on the needs of key regional industries. And remember, the city serves as the fiduciary agent for the 10-county WorkSource Coastal Region, and I serve as the chief local elected official over that program. So we also have several requests to consider, including alcohol licenses, rezonings, and your garden variety annexations. As always, you can attend our meetings live, in person, or tune into our award-winning TV Channel 8, and online. And a reminder that we are also still accepting applications for 8th graders, outstanding 8th graders in the city of Savannah to participate in the Savannah Youth Council class of 2023, which begins this fall. The Savannah Youth Council program was founded in 2004 by myself and Mary Johnson to be able to build our own bench, to get young people engaged earlier in government, have them understand their government, have them appreciate their government, and really to seek their input. Everything we do today is really for them. It's really for them. And so we want to get them engaged, 8th graders engaged much earlier. So if you're interested, you can go to savannahga.gov/SYC, savannahga.gov/SYC, and applications will remain open as long as space is available. As we've said before, the Office of Sustainability is accepting applications for community members to be a part of the 100% Savannah working groups focused on the plan's implementation. And the purpose of the working groups is to garner community feedback and generate new ideas to aid in the plan's successful implementation in various sectors throughout the city. And as a reminder, the groups are innovation, policy and legal, grants, and funding, and community engagement. And for more information on our exciting 100% Savannah initiative, you can go to 100%savannah.com, 100%savannah.com. We are still accepting applications from our minor home repair program to assist eligible homeowners with property in Savannah with making repairs to their homes. For more information, you can go to the top stories section of the award-winning savannahga.gov. This is a great opportunity. The money is there. We've helped over 30 some odd homeowners in the city. We can help you too. So let us help you while the money is there. So please check out the top story section on savannahga.gov. Finally, week 9 of the 2022 hurricane season. And if you have to evacuate quickly due to a hurricane, you need to know what your zone is. Everybody in our community lives in a evacuation zone, so you want to know what your zone is. We've had situations before where we had one zone not evacuate and 2 zones did evacuate. So know what zone you're in, know what your routes are. Everybody's talking about, I can go 16. There are other ways out of here rather than 16. Know what those routes are. Know the way that works best for you. Practice with your household and pets. Let everybody know where they're going to go, what they're going to do, where they're going to stay. And then when you determine where you're going to stay, ask the people that you want to stay with before you show up. Just say, hey, we're here. So go ahead and make those plans, have that conversation. So if you have not already done so, go to ready.gov/hurricanes, ready.gov/hurricanes for more great information on preparedness. So that ends my prepared remarks. I appreciate your patience and your flexibility, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Starting off, Mayor, first off, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You started off today mentioning, the shooting situation here in Savannah and what the departments are doing about it and everything. My first question is kind of a two-part question, if you will. Number one, is the curfew still in effect for City Market? And if so, how is that working out? Or is it too early to tell yet? Secondly, we get plenty of the community members that are naturally, upset about how things are going. Some say the lack thereof, that the department should be doing more and so forth. But I'm not so much going to dig into that. But are you having any of the businesses around, in and around City Market reaching out to city officials saying, hey, this is hurting our businesses, or my daughter had her 10-year class reunion last weekend, and she said, Dad, where can we go and say have a drink afterwards? I don't want to go to City Market, she said. So how do we convince people that still stay?
I mean, we tell people that people have to make their decisions that's best for them. I think the narrative here is that we've already met with City Market and other downtown businesses. We have a relationship, so we don't meet just when stuff goes bad. We meet all the time. And our local and downtown business community have been phenomenal in working with us. They recognize that we're living in some very, very unique times, and they recognize, just as we do, that all of our areas, not just downtown, not just City Market, needs to be safe. That being said, we do not have a curfew anywhere in the city right now. We do not have a curfew in City Market. We have an age restriction in City Market, which means that if you're under 21, after I think 11 o'clock, you can't be down there. So far, so good from what I've heard. Our city is safe again. I just came back from meeting with 14, 15 mayors, and I'm hearing these horror stories, and I'm like, wow. Savannah is as safe as it can be. And I think that we have people who are, for every incident we have thousands of people who are here all over the city, both residents and guests, that have a remarkable time in the city. And so our goal is not to let those incidents overshadow the vast majority of great opportunities that people have in our city. The unfortunate part, again, is that we have gun laws here that allow guns to be everywhere. And so everyone is a potential shooter or a retaliatory shooter. And the fact is, we're doing the best that we can. The police cannot predict who's going to shoot. They just can't. If we could, we would not. But the fact is, this gun law makes it so difficult. It ties the hands of police. And so we're going to do the part that we can do. And that is all of the things, a litany of things that I've talked about that the city is engaged in. Some of it has to come from legislation through the state. And then, community, public safety is a public responsibility. And so we've implored people, particularly when we know that issues are going on, when we know that there's beefs out there, let somebody know. We have an office of neighborhood safety and engagement that's on the ground that will get to people, that will help to diffuse it. We're out here buying weapons. If we can buy them, we'll buy them and take them off people's hands. So there's a community segment of that. And again, I don't want to absolve the public's responsibility in being a part of this. We all have a responsibility to help keep people safe. And the notion that police do it alone is outdated and is certainly not true. You just don't, especially when we've had shootings where the police officers are on the same block. And so, we look better to do better. It is a process. It's a process that the city is not shying away from. And we're just hoping, as I said before, that our prosecutorial partners and our judicial partners that play a role in this as well, that when we make the arrest, they go away for a long time. And they're not here to victimize somebody else. We know that the majority of incidents, by and large, happen by a small percentage of people. And we know more of them are domestic. citizens in people's houses and, you know, where people congregate, and we don't have law enforcement there, and we can't have law enforcement there.
Now, my last question,
Sure.
you mentioned the word yellow with this new variant COVID, you know, kind of uptick, unfortunately. A lot of schools around here in the area getting ready to start soon, and we're probably, in my opinion, going to see more increases in cases and stuff. And should that happen, I know you're asking this all the time, and you don't want to go with this, you know, mask mandate in the near future if needed.
I'm having our staff to unfurl the mask mandate ban just in case. Obviously, I'm very concerned about school being back in play. Obviously, that's just a lot of people together, concerned for the welfare of our students, our teachers, our faculty and staff, our bus drivers, our custodians. And so I just asked them to also make sure that they're taking proper precautions with their young people and the staff. I mean, it may not be a mask mandate in schools, but that doesn't stop them from wearing masks. Doesn't stop them from watching their distance and washing their hands. So we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm very, I would say, reluctant to go back into the mask mandate space, but I'm resolved to go there if the situation dictates and our medical advisory team advises to do so. Yes, sir.
So you went to that conference with those other cities, and was it specifically about gun violence and how to curb it?
Yeah, well, it was about keeping communities safe.
Okay. So, but I imagine you talked a lot about it.
I talked a lot about it.
What did you learn? What did you take away from it?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway it was a couple of things. First thing is that this is all over the country. I was amazed at how many cities are dealing with these issues. On the other end of it, cities are dealing with it at a much larger scale than we are. You know, that when you look at it comparatively, you see Savannah in a good place, although that's not acceptable for me. What I also see is that the experts that we've talked to talked about what we've already said, that we know that more policing does not work. That we have to use various strategies, and the city of Savannah is doing those things. Again, some have what's called crime reduction offices or violence reduction offices. We were ahead of that game with our Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. How do we do those types of things? Some were talking about enforcement responses. We're already ahead of that. We have a behavioral health unit and being able to do that. A lot of them talked about concerns in enforcement. Again, that the officers arrest people and then they don't ever go to jail, which, you know, I suspect could be some of our issue here as well. So it was a good opportunity for me to hear. I've heard some interesting ideas, some things that we can maybe integrate into our existing work plan. Most importantly, I'm pleased that Savannah has a plan. And it is a community-wide, community approach, public health approach to dealing with this. And so we'll continue later on this year, but it was probably one of the more enlightening engagements I've had with LLC since becoming mayor.
Anything immediately implementable here that we're not doing already?
Well, I think the thing that probably will work best is that we've resolved through these cities to really network our staffs. We have police departments that are generally through national and state organizations, but really a way to be able to network these crime reduction offices and having them work together about things that they work. Some things that work in some communities we find may not work in other communities. But I think more importantly, it was important for mayors to remain vigilant, certainly not to give up hope that we can get past this, and to make sure that we're using data to be able to tell the story. And so I've always committed to data in terms of making sure we are letting people know what that is. I mean, the fact of the matter, there are facts, and the facts are Savannah is not besieged with crime. That's not true. Savannah does not have blood flowing through the streets. It does not. Savannah is not safe. That is not true. I mean, and so you hear these narratives from people who don't go anywhere else, or don't communicate with anywhere else, or don't look at national news. And again, I think when you drop some of these numbers down and look at them more specifically, particularly, we had 22 homicides, I believe, at this point, which is 2 more than last year at this time. When you take out domestic violence incidents, you take out the one child death from last year, when you take out issues of people who knew each other and had some beef with each other, you're now talking about, and when you take away those shootings under those same circumstances, literally you have virtually a much different picture as it relates to crime in this community.
Yeah, I agree with that. Something you pointed to a couple of times is the constitutional carry law that passed during this legislature this year.
Yes.
But like you literally just said, it's been worse in the past. What specifically is telling you that the constitutional carry law is driving shootings in Spain?
The fact that you just have more guns. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to see that now people can have guns unchecked. So we don't know who has guns. Again, we were in the city market and there was a shooting and they're saying 7 people pulled out guns. There is no way to account for it and no way for law enforcement to be able to effectively ascertain what's going on. We talk about the officer-involved shootings in Savannah. We've had 5 of them this year. There have been 8 in Atlanta. So officer-involved shootings are going up across the state because there are more interactions with people that are armed with police. Whether it's a justified shooting or not, there's still that interaction in which the officer feels like they need to use violence. And so, if you don't have the gun, then you don't have the shooting. You don't have the gun, you don't have the need for an officer to feel like they need to use deadly force. The deadly force comes when you have a deadly weapon. And so, and I think all of the people who were there from Georgia all agreed. I mean, you look at what was happening before constitutional carry and since constitutional carry, and things have changed.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Kind of want to piggyback off gun violence. Those floodlights in Ellis Square, I guess, how has that been going? Has that deterred a lot of that activity that you guys want to deter from that area?
Not necessarily deterred it, but it lit it up. I've talked before. I've been working with Georgia Power to really do a lighting on it in Savannah. I mean, when we talk about crime, we're also talking about preventing crime. We know that some crimes are crimes of opportunity, and so we need to do what we can to stop those possibilities from happening. So one of the things we were able to do was to create, and I did it with an alderman. It was in Collar Brownville. There was a issue on a dark street. I brought in a spotlight, and there was like no crime. People just scattered. So far, Ellis Square looks good. I like the idea of us even using temporary lighting, particularly on areas that are dark at night. There are some sections of Broughton Street during construction that are dark. Some areas in the city, while we figure out with Georgia Power what lights are ours and what lights are theirs. Once we're able to determine that, then let's talk about what are the darkest areas in the city. Once we determine that, how much is it going to cost for us to put lights in all of those places to light them up and make it less convenient for people to do various crimes. We know that people who do dark stuff don't like light.
And so with Ellis Square, it's safe to say those temporary lights will be for the foreseeable future, considering what's going on?
It'll be here for a while. Again, and it's really not necessarily about crime reduction. To me, it was just to correct, in my mind, was a flawed design. City Market, if you ever look at City Market, as the night gets darker, the lights get brighter. And when we did Ellis Square, and I was a council member at the time, I'm not sure there was enough thought put into the fact that it should be bright. It should be bright. As you know, for those who've been down there are a lot of just dark spots. And so, this helps us light it. I'm asking the city manager for a permanent lighting solution. All of our parks, and really all of our squares, should have a healthy dose of lighting. Again, that doesn't go to, that goes to crime prevention. And so we look forward to that.
Are we still considering doing a legit curfew?
As I said before, it's still on the table. If we're not able to control gun violence, if this is what we have to do to keep people safe, as I've said it, that's a tool in the toolbox that we can use. To me, it is the nuclear option, the final option, but if we have to clear streets to keep people safe, then we'll be able to do that. Right now, we're just monitoring. We are maintaining good relationships with our businesses. We are proactively talking to them, and they're certainly always welcome to talk to us. We're in this together, and we're not going to let the criminal element win in our city. We're just not going to do it. We're going to work together, and we're going to be that light on the top of the hill, and we're going to make sure we do what we can to rid ourselves of those who want to pull triggers in our community. Thank you all so much. Have a good one. Be Savannah strong.